Okay, well, why don't I call the meeting to order, and Margaret can join us as and if she can. All right, well, thank you everybody for meeting this evening. Before we get stuck into the agenda for today, does anybody have any conflict of interest that they wish to declare up front?
No
Okay.
conflict.
No.
Seeing none, then I will take that to mean that there are no declarations of conflict of interest. Okay, you all received the minutes from last time round, which I thought were a work of art. I think they were certainly captured my sense of what happened.
Thank you, Richard.
Does anybody have any business arising from the minutes?
Oh, Richard, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. Can we
Sorry, go
have a motion to approve the minutes and a seconder, please?
Oh, yes, sorry. A motion to approve the minutes. I will move that.
I'll second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then the minutes are to be voted on. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. The approval of the agenda. Before we proceed, one minor modification of the agenda. I believe item 5 is not going to happen tonight. Scott Adams, Manager of Public Works, is not available to speak to us tonight. So we will strike that from the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll approve it, Joanne. I need a seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Boy, this is the fastest meeting. Okay.
Excuse me, Richard. Hi
Yes.
to Margaret Gallant. She's been with us.
Oh, hey. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Hi, Margaret. So now we can move on to our first substantive piece of business, which is a presentation from Janice Harper with respect to the active transportation for the new proposed recreation facility, the former Simmons facility. Janice, do you need me? Are you able to share your presentation on this, or do you need me to make you a host or something like that? You're muted.
Sorry. I will try to share it, and I don't use WebEx that often, but I will try to share it, and we'll see how that goes. Okay.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, I will turn the floor over to you, Janice. Okay.
Share. Okay, I want to share my screen. Let's see here, and. Okay, oopsie. Okay, I have to go back a few. Here we go. Sorry, you're getting, okay. Can you see my screen?
We can't, actually. I can't.
Oh, okay, that's a problem. So I can see my screen. Let me see. Let's try this again. Okay.
Usually you have to be a host. I know on Teams, I think on Zoom, you have to be the host.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Oh, I'm not a host, am I?
It's not us, is it? That's hosting.
Right. Yeah, make sure you've allowed permission to share content, then try again. I don't.
So Jason, it says that you're the host. Can you allow Janice to share? Or make a co-host? Or
just gonna take my cat here.
Oh, we like to see the little animals.
Okay, so I'm now co-host of the meeting. Wonderful.
Perfect.
Now the cat knocked down my, okay, here we go. Okay, so now let's try sharing. Share my screen. And think if I go into my slideshow. How's that? Does that work?
No.
No. Sorry. Back to the meeting. Works.
I got
Okay.
something.
Oh, we got something.
Okay, that's the meeting. So now let's try.
Oh, there it is.
This is
Okay.
looking
Yeah.
promising.
Okay, so looking better. How's that now? How's that? If I go to the full slide, does that work?
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
beautiful.
Yeah, this is great.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so I can't see anything but my screen right now, so bear with me. So I first of all want to thank you for inviting me to speak with you. And I wrote a letter to the editor about a month ago, and then I shared that letter or a version of that letter with the mayor, and he asked me to contact Joanne and to ask if I could speak to you. So I was, so my concern in the letter to the editor was about active transportation and pedestrian safety at the Simmons site. And that's primarily what I would like to talk about today. So I thought we'd do a little bit of history. So Simmons, here's like a picture that was taken last summer. So Simmons, as we know, is located in the heart of a residential neighborhood. 2 schools. So I tried to get a picture of Queen Charlotte and Colonel Gray are located directly adjacent to Simmons. In fact, a total of 5 public schools are located within walking distance to Simmons. 2,400 students attend these schools, comprising more than 10% of the 2020, those were my numbers, 2020 overall enrollment for Prince Edward Island. So we're dealing with a huge amount of potential walkers or potential cyclists to school. So hundreds of students walk to school every day. However, there are no sidewalks. I tried to get a picture of along North River Road. There are no sidewalks along the Simmons property on the east side of North River Road or on the south side of Kirkwood Drive. There are no dedicated bike paths around and between the school and Simmons. And I wondered what is being done to enhance safe, active transportation in this neighborhood, and why, with the millions of dollars that are going to be spent on this project, I haven't heard any mention of facilitating active transportation on the site or around the site. So that's my concern. Concerned residents and parents had actually started meeting in the summer and the fall of 2020 to discuss concerns about student and pedestrian safety. A number of meetings were held and a number of city councilors were contacted. And in fact, I think our group met with Peter Rukavina because I understand that he was maybe on this committee at that point in time. We also met with Mitch Underhay of Bike Friendly Charlottetown to discuss concerns for safety and to explore how to create a safer routes to schools in the area. So all of this happened before Save Simmons happened. People were getting together and were talking, but of course it was the pandemic, and it became difficult to function as a group. However, we did submit to the province an application to fund a neighborhood study or a neighborhood outreach. And that application was turned down mostly because we were a neighborhood group and we hadn't partnered with the municipality. And we were invited to contact the municipality and to resubmit an application. But again, it was 2020, it was the pandemic, and we just did not see how it would be very simple to go forward given the constraints at the time. So we just let it sit. But now that it seems that there's going to be definitely reconstruction of Simmons, we thought it would be time to start to bring our concerns forward again. So I just want to talk about a survey that we had done in the summer and fall of 2020. And this was kind of in preparation for potentially doing a larger study. So I want to just share some of the information from that study with you. So as you can see on this slide, we did what we called a Brighton residence survey. Over 80 households responded to the survey. Opinions were mixed on a number of questions, but there was some consensus, including a desire for the size of the facility to be in line with the current facility and with its location in the neighborhood. So as we've heard recently, people in the neighborhood and in the community of Charlottetown, have a lot of attachment to Simmons. And what we found with the survey was people identified Simmons as a neighborhood facility, not a provincial level facility or regional level facility, but a neighborhood or a city neighborhood facility. It was certainly clear from the survey that any opportunity to redevelop the site was one opportunity, a singular opportunity, and it's important to get it right. There was certainly a belief that the facility should be focused on building local community, and there was certainly an expression of a need for any plan to deal with the site as a whole, not just the design of the facility and how it will work. So that is a concern. What's going to happen on the actual site? Let's see here. Do I have another one? Okay, so I just want to look at my notes here. So the survey explored the future of the Simmons site. The residents were clear. The vast majority of respondents were very concerned about the impact of any development on traffic. If you can see over to the side of your slide, we did ask the city police to post some mechanism to collect speed. So we've identified this as recent speed radar statistics. 47% of drivers exceeded the 40-kilometer speed limit at North River Road and Admiral. 58% of drivers exceeded the 60-kilometer limit at North River Road and Waterview Heights. So traffic speed was a major consideration. And of course, when we consider how many students cross, for example, North River Road to go to either West Kent School or to the high schools, speed is an issue, and we wonder what might be done to address speed or to address traffic calming with the increased traffic that will most likely come from a bigger facility or a new facility. So when asked what you as a resident would like to see in as a replacement, results favored a casual drop-in type facility. Let me see if I have the right. So this one is about active transportation. Sorry. Residents want to retain green space and clearly want to include active transportation options to and from the study. So again, this is a study of 80 people or 80 households, and over 45 households strongly agreed that there should any new development of the site should include active transportation options to and from the facility. So we had very clear interest in, sorry if I touch this, it goes to the next slide, very clear interest in active transportation to and from the site, and also retaining green space. So very clear, if you can see on the circle, the blue circle, very clear interest in retaining green space. And there was also some interest in a buffer, as in more trees surrounding the site. The next slide was, we asked some very open-ended questions. So the question was, the city is preparing to replace the rink and the pool. What would you like to see the replacement include? And what, this was like a very open-ended question, and people could select maybe from a drop-down list or maybe add their own. I'm not sure, it was a while ago now, but we see a wide variety of options here. And what was most interesting to us was that people wanted casual drop-in options, like open options. So not, for example, a turf field that was locked and lighted at night. They actually, the two number one items were, I think, an outdoor basketball court and bicycle racks, and then walking paths scored very high. So like, I think people wanted just a casual, it seemed that people were asking for a casual drop-in place, not programmed. It's the kind of stuff we see happening when people are playing pickup soccer, when soccer isn't happening at regular times. So now I want to talk about the open house that was held by the city. So the city collected feedback which addressed features related to the pool and details related to the building to be constructed. It did not, this information meeting did not address the site considerations. And, you know, I actually wonder if this is an oversight, because I think people were so focused on the building and what the building might look like, or the pool, or what the pool might look like, that they didn't think about how people were going to access the site. And, you know, I think that if we look back to the Simmons master plan, which was prepared in 2013, and I actually tried to create a couple of slides from this 2013 master plan, but it was so old, it wouldn't translate into Google Docs, which is what I use for this slideshow. So the Simmons master plan actually contained many references to the site and to how the site functions as a connector between the adjacent schools and the neighborhood. And if I recall correctly, there were even some various options for pathways that were included in the Simmons master plan. So I don't think, even though the Simmons master plan is very dated, I think there might be some stuff there that could be quite useful. So basically, you know, what we want to talk about is that the site plan for the project could be updated, and the terms of reference for this project, the Simmons project, could be also updated immediately to address pedestrian safety and safe cycling. If the tender has been issued, it can be amended. Or if the scope of work has been defined, it could be expanded very easily to include incorporating best practices for active transportation. And in my mind, this would include a dedicated bike lane, physically separated from vehicular traffic all along this site, the Simmons site, on North River Road and on Kirkwood Drive. So short term, what I'm asking the Active Transportation Committee to consider is to update the site plan or the scope of work for the Simmons project to include significant bicycle parking, dedicated bike paths separated from vehicular traffic, dedicated bike paths through the site connecting to both schools, and to incorporate other best practices for pedestrian and bicycle paths. So this is, I haven't mentioned bicycle parking because, you know, I think the parking can go in any time, but the actual pathways and the designing of the pathways is best done before the construction starts on the site. Longer term, you know, we would be interested in partnering with the city and local residents, and actually to expand maybe the scope of a project if you want to talk about a future project. To look at the 5 schools and to prepare a plan to connect the schools by safe, active transportation. There's a model called the 880 model. And actually we had a speaker in Charlottetown a number of years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, that talked about the 880 model for pedestrian safety, bicycle safety. But the idea is that an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old can safely navigate the streets as walkers or as cyclists. Medium term, the city could look at expanding active transportation infrastructure and developing a neighborhood. I'm suggesting the Colonel Gray family of schools. So developing a neighborhood active transportation plan. Also, oopsie, there I go again. Also promoting active transportation options for schools, maybe considering a pilot project, and of course, installing traffic calming and transit connection space. So those are, you know, that is basically what I'm asking for. And also in the medium term, or asking for consideration in the medium term, perhaps the city could partner with local residents to explore casual outdoor recreation areas and options and transit connections, such as I do believe that the soccer club, Winslow Soccer Club, suggested that if there was ever to be changes, that they would like to see a soccer field for U15, and which could possibly be an outdoor arena. The basketball court, we know it was very high on the list of items. The city doesn't have a lot of outside basketball courts. Of course, walking paths, outdoor meeting spaces like benches and tables, less vehicle parking and more bike parking, and then of course, potentially connecting to transit in the future. So those are all medium-term considerations. So I think that's the end of my slideshow, and I don't know how to, let's see if I can exit that. Cancel, let's see here. So I think I can stop sharing my screen.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Okay, there. So it's hard to have a big ask and not to have, I feel like I'm speaking into a television screen. So anyways, I am an urban planner, and, I've been watching with great interest what's going on at Simmons. And I think there's a real opportunity for the city to create a safe access to the site in the short term. And as I said, I think it would be very easy to expand the terms of reference for the scope of the project to include active transportation pathways. And then in the medium term, I think there's potential for a bigger project to maybe connect the site to the local schools. And as I said, there are 5 schools with over 2,400 students within walking distance. So, it's not just to Simmons, because Simmons actually connects to Spring Park, and Simmons connects to St. Jean's, and Simmons connects to West Kent, as well as to the junior high and the high school. So, anyways, I've said a lot, and I'd love to take some questions or further
Yes.
discuss.
That was a great presentation, really well thought out, and lots of really great points. I think there was a lot of points that came up in that myself, I didn't really think about any of that stuff. There's a new center going in, but what about all the stuff that comes with a new center, plus the opportunity to make services better. So I think it was really well thought out. Like the basketball court, I would have never thought of something like that. That's it's not active transportation, but it gets it in the guise of that. It gets it out there and kind of in the public's eye, something that you wouldn't have thought about before. So I think it's really good. I know for me, I know you mentioned bike lane quite a bit, and I know for myself, I prefer active transportation lanes that can be used by everyone. I know bike lanes at one time were kind of, a great talking point, but as we look at, multi-usage and things like that, as far as pathways going in, I'd like to see them to be an active transportation lane. So that would be your, you can bike, you can rollerblade, that type of thing.
Roller, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that was a great presentation. Like that's so much information and laid out so cleanly.
Yes, so thank you very much for that, Janice. That was really interesting. And as you point out, that this is a singular opportunity, and we're not going to get it again for another generation. So a little bit of money extra maybe spent here or redirected from some of the objectives right now could make a big difference down the road. Before we go further, I would like to acknowledge that the mayor is here, of course, as well. And actually, Mr. Mayor, could we ask you what is the state of the plan right now? Where is the city on all of this? Where is the budget? If you could give us an update on where we are and before we start thinking about how this could maybe fit in.
Richard, first of all, I want to say thanks to Janice. And I spoke to Janice shortly after she put her letter to the editor in The Guardian, March 22nd. So if you want to read it, just get a digital copy. It says putting parking before parks, and it's a well written letter to the editor. It talks about the design of a new sports facility without facilitating active transportation is absurd in 2022, and that's true. It did come up, Janice, at that open house. I think it was from Ernie Morello and his wife. Where are the plans about sidewalks, active transportation pathways, landscaping with trees and shrubs? And it wasn't part of the plan. It was left out. It was not intentionally. I think we were just concentrating on the structure. And Richard, to answer the question, the process we're following is I don't think the contract is going to one major general contractor. It's going to be broken into 5 or 6 tenders. So the first tender that will be coming out will be the steel tender, the steel for the structure. It'll be a pre-engineered building, so that steel will have to be ordered through one of the pre-engineering steel manufacturers in Canada or the United States. And right now, because of supply chain issues, it's taken about 9 to 12 months to get that steel in. So there is lots of time to work on this active transportation plan that Jan has proposed, and not only an active transportation plan. I like the idea of more trees, more greenery, make it more a place where it's not just for indoor sports, or for that matter, indoor and outdoor, ice sports, swimming pool, indoor track, but to use the whole facility and make it constructed or build it so that it's a magnet for those 5 schools that Jan is talking about. And it's very important that we, as you said, Richard, we have an opportunity to make this happen. Cost-wise, we have $26 million budgeted for this project. 75% is funding from the provincial and federal governments under their climate mitigation and resiliency fund. So we're contributing 25%, and I'm sure we can add more if we need to add more to the overall scope of the project. It's the biggest, this is one of the largest capital projects since 2002, 2003, when we built the Kerry facility. So we have a great opportunity to make this happen. And again, I'm going back to Janice's article or letter to the editor, I think has started the ball rolling, and I think we have an opportunity to make this happen. And Janice, to get that study, Jeremy Pierce's study on the Simmons Sports Center, I think it was 2013, 2012, 2013. Yeah, just go on to charlottetown.ca, go under search, and you'll find it. Just put in Simmons Sports Center study. And I have a copy of it here. I've looked at some of the plans that you talked about on that expansion of walk-in or active transportation pathways, making it more accessible and inclusive. So again, Richard, I think we have an opportunity, and I believe this task force can make a recommendation to the Standing Committee for Parks, Recreation, the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee, and also the Finance and Property Standing Committee to include more of what Janice Harper presented in this in her presentation. Thank you.
Margaret?
Thank you for that. I have a question, and I think I may be thinking about this in a different manner, but I do believe that we as an AT committee had made a recommendation that prior to any paving or pathways or new AT lanes, that this committee, that there be a lens, an AT lens put on any kind of project. Did we do this as a group? I believe we discussed this before. Is that correct, Joanne?
Yes, my recollection, Margaret, is what you're saying, that any new subdivision, development, that active transportation, an AT pathway be
Okay.
installed. That was the
So am
term that
I-
we used. So we had a resolution go forth. Yes.
So am I clear in hearing, Mr. Mayor, that there was no AT lens put on this project at Simmons?
Are you asking me, Mayor, Margaret?
Yeah,
You're asking-
I heard what you said. I'm looking for clarification because I do think we had put something forward.
Right.
And I'm just wanting to be totally clear that as the project sits where it is currently, there was to date, no AT lens on that project.
No, but that's why I appreciate what Janice has added to this discussion, is that when we looked at Simmons, replacing Simmons Arena and Simmons Pool, it was just about the facility. It wasn't about the surrounding areas. So Janice and Ernie Morello and friends have said, no, this is more than just a building. This is about 20, like, if you look at, Margaret, if you look at Simmons, it's 20 acres plus of green space. It's a lot of green space. So
And I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
what you're saying. So I am very appreciative, Janice, that you are here.
Yeah.
I really, really want to understand what is it that we need to do as an AT committee, task force, so that maybe this may not have been brought up, and so what steps are we missing as a task force in terms of development within the city of Charlottetown? Where is that lens, and who's gonna put the lens on for us always in terms of development for the city of Charlottetown?
Well, if I could respond to that, Margaret, I know in the beginning of this Mayor's Task Force and Active Transportation, Ramona was part of the meetings. So she was the conduit between this task force and council administration. And I think now it's Doug Dumais who takes the minutes from the secretary of this group, formulates them or puts them in the template that is then copied to council and presented at the regular monthly meeting. So that's the only way we're finding out or understanding what's going on at the committee. There's no admin conduit, and I think that's what we have to get back to, is someone has to be involved with this committee. If it's not Ramona, then it's someone from Environment Sustainability, because that's what the committee falls under that standing committee. So
That's my question.
Yeah.
To move us, Janice, I don't want to absorb all your time. That is my question for clarity purposes for our task force.
Right.
We're like, this could be continuously, but I'm just suggesting that in 2022, there should be an AT lens put on every type of development project. And if we made the resolution, now I'm happy this has happened. So we've identified a gap. So now we have to do the root cause and try to figure it out.
Yeah, and if I could just, Richard, if I could just add, now the task force is an advisory body. So it's not a decision-making body. As a group,
Agreed.
you make decisions, which is, that's perfectly within within the parameters of your mandate or your terms of references. But when it goes up the food chain, I call it, or up the ladder, it may not always be checked off. And again, that's the some of the, I call the pros and cons of advisory committees, is that not always are the recommendations accepted, but at least they've been brought to the attention of the decision makers, whether it's at a municipal, provincial, or federal level. In this discussion, we're talking about municipal government.
And before we come back to making some sort of a resolution or a recommendation, we did prioritize some proposed separate bike routes through the city on the advice of um, Mitch Underhay for the Bike Friendly Charlottetown. And the one that we're waiting on is from the bridge to Joe Giz Park. That was one, and that was a priority. A second one was from Maple Avenue up to Sherwood School, down to Stone Park, and onto the mall. A third one was Nassau Street to connect Queen Elizabeth Drive up through Carriage Lane, which is close to Simmons and Queen Charlotte, along Nassau and on to the research station from there, and to connect to the Colonel Gray and connect to the Confederation Trail. So that Mitch has in proposal, and I think that was like third. And none of those have happened. I mean, it's only April of 2022, but we had put those recommendations forward, I believe, in November of 2020. And Mr. Mayor, you've identified that. Right now, we're trying to get Scott Adams to attend one of our meetings so we can find out where, if any of these things are in the works or what's going on, because we're in limbo. We've made the recommendations, but we're in limbo. But Janice, to that one that's on our priority list and fairly high up was to connect Queen Elizabeth Drive up through Carriage Lane onto North River Road, a separate bike path, and on along Nassau. Like, that definitely was one of our proposals.
Joanne, Janice, just before you answer, Joanne, the pathway, the active transportation pathway from Hillsborough Bridge east to Joe Giz Park,
Yes.
that was in last year's capital budget.
Yes.
Adams didn't get it done.
I know.
It's back on this year.
Yes.
It's back on this year. And did you look at a copy of the 5-year plan for multi-use paved pathways? Did you receive a copy of that yet?
No, the only one we saw was the proposal, but it hadn't gone through council yet.
Okay. I'll get you a copy of the 5-year plan for the multi-use pathway. And it was only passed in principle. So it's not,
Right.
It's not a document that cannot be changed. It's like the French language. There are many exceptions to it that you can make progress on projects that you want to put forward. But I can tell you that Councillor McCabe has been trying to get some pathways up in multi-use pathways up in Ward 9. And after 2 years of asking, I think she'll finish that. They will complete that pathway on McCrae Drive that stopped at Parent Drive up to the East Royalty Road. So some of these capital projects do take some time. Look at Towers Road.
Where are you with Towers Road, Mayor?
Towers Road is, again, we're working with Zach Bell, and Zach Bell is offering some funding from the province to make it happen. And that's when Janice, that's when I found out that the Brighton group submitted an application for an active transportation study, and it was turned down. There was also one for Mount Everett Road submitted by Glenn Kavanagh, that he wanted to do one for Towers Road. Both were turned down because there was no connection with the municipality. So going forward, Janice, I think you may want to look at, if you want to submit it again with support from your councillor, and that your councillor will take it to Parks and Recreation on to council.
Okay, so I've just heard a couple of things. So if anyone has any questions, so I just want to reiterate that we didn't go forward with our proposal, and the proposal that we had in mind, I don't think it's au courant, to use the French term, right now, because in part, the situation has changed because Simmons is going to be constructed. And to be frank, the results of our survey were so clear, and it's so clear that there is nothing along, a certain portion of North River Road or Kirkwood on the site, that I don't think, I'll frankly say, as an urban planner, there's no need for consultation in the very short term, because it's such a clear need, and it could so clearly be done by adding to the scope of work or adding to the tender. It so clearly falls within, I think everyone has agreed it's an oversight, and it's easily rectified. So, but more medium term, I think if we were interested in going forward with a proposal, we would certainly maybe be interested in the broader picture, which is connecting the Simmons site, once it's done, connecting that site to the schools, like to the local schools. And it certainly sounds like Bike Friendly Charlottetown has been maybe doing some some good work, and our group has really been quite quiet over the last year. So I would have to, if you're interested, if this committee is interested, then I could go back to our group and to see if there's interest for a medium-term study. But I think we would look at medium-term projects after seeing what happens at Simmons, because I think Simmons is the connector. Yeah.
Okay, and so Janice, I'm listening to what you're saying, and on your medium, there's not a whole lot there that we as an active transportation committee can take hold of, other than, the advocating for transit, right? Like that's on our mandate too, because that's seen as active transportation, the connecting.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
I'd like to make a resolution, and I'd like to resolve or recommend to the E&S committee, to Parks and Recreation, and to the Finance Committee of Council that we endorse the proposal of the short term of the Brighton residents' recommendations, that an effort be made to connect the new recreation proposal at Simmons to the 5 schools in the area. Now, do you want to word that stronger? What do you think of that one?
I think I think I certainly approve of that in principle. I always like really strong language, but I think maybe the way to go would be to throw this back to Janice and say, what would you like to see us actually write up in a resolution?
Okay.
Keeping in mind that, as was just said, that we can't sort of lobby for basketball courts, for instance, though I noticed the Spring Park basketball courts are full any time of day. As soon as the snow melts, there are people playing. Obviously,
There is a basketball net up there at Queen Charlotte. There is a net up there.
Okay,
My
yeah.
kids used it for years. Go on, Richard. Sorry for interjecting there.
Yeah, no, my only point was that it would be outside our mandate to start talking about basketball courts.
Oh, yeah.
We could certainly talk about walking paths, bike paths, paths down North River Road, paths along Kirkwood. Kirkwood in particular is awkward, because when the schools are playing sports, there's a lot of parents who are in their cars watching from there, which makes biking along there actually pretty treacherous. People just backing out and saying, I'm done, and not properly looking. So if my sense, if this is friendly, Joanne, would be to send this to Janice and ask Janice's group to come up with a resolution that we can get behind on those sorts of things, and then we push it aggressively along the lines that you suggested.
I'm fine with that, Richard. That's a valid suggestion. Janice, are you fine with that?
I'm fine with that. It gives me time, but to be clear, I'm very, I see the mayor has a question, has his hand up. To be clear, I really think that it's important to move quickly and clearly on the Simmons site itself.
Yeah.
And if in the very short term you would like to have a resolution to update the site plan or the scope of work for the Simmons project to include active transportation pathways to best standards, and on the site. So to focus right now on the site, to get that rolling and to be very clear, and then to communicate that to the public, that to take that to council, and then to communicate that to the public, that active transportation is going to be a major consideration, so that to be very clear. So that's in the short term. Most immediately, I would like to, I would be very happy to see a resolution to that effect. It's not a hilly site. There's 20 acres of land to play with, and there's nothing right now along a portion of North River Road or Kirkwood. So there's lots of space to play with.
Okay, and just while we're thrashing this out, like, I don't see the necessity for parents to sit in their cars and take up all that valuable space so that they can watch their children play, one night a week for 8 weeks or 7 weeks of the summer, when that could be an active transportation pathway safely all the way along there to be used by all users. Am I wrong, or what do you think?
I think what parents do is parent choice. I think what we do as an active transportation task force, our whole thing is about moving at a pace in terms of what Janice is suggesting. And those other things often just take care of themselves, Joanne.
And the other thing is, you could have parking between the active transportation pathway and the street. I mean, I've seen, in Halifax, it's not crossways, it's one behind the other, that sort of thing. So that's design that can go. So Janice, back to, and Richard, what we're talking about here, you'd like to see a motion that the our task force asks the three departments that I'm listed to update the site plan for Simmons to include an active transportation pathway on the site. Does that say enough?
Multiple. I'd say more than one, because because we're dealing most certainly with
to include multiple and separated, to best practices. And in my mind, that means separated from vehicular traffic. Okay. So
Janice, do you want to write it, Janice, and then it's just done?
No, that's okay. Update the site plan to include
She's dictating right now.
Multiple separated from traffic pathways. AT pathways on the site.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Janice, I just wanted to say that that study that you applied for money under the active transportation pathway group, you're right. The immediate short-term concern is with the construction site that'll be will hopefully start soon, hopefully by the end of May. So when you see bulldozers moving around there and excavators and so forth, then we can start putting the components in place. But I think for that medium term, I think your group should look at applying for funding to do a study in partnership with the city. That's what I want to say. Plus, I think Joanne Sharon had her hand up earlier, or she was waving. Sharon, did you?
No, I hit the button, Mayor. I apologize. I have COVID, so I'm not in my right mind.
Okay, don't talk. It could go through the waves.
God bless you. Poor Sharon. Good for you for signing in. Okay, so I've got the motion. I need a seconder.
I'll certainly second that.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor? Okay. We're all in favor?
Yes, I am too, Sharon.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So it's motion carried. So there's a special form that I have to type up. I don't remember what the name of it is, but anyway, it's a special motion form. And so I'll send it to those 3 departments. And Mayor Brown, just sorry to bother you again, but is that called the Finance Committee of the council? What's it called? I can't hear you.
Muted.
Sorry, you're muted.
Standing Committee for Finance and Properties.
Oh, okay. I haven't written to them before.
And then the Standing Committee for Parks, Recreation, and Leisure, and Standing Committee for Environment and Sustainability.
Thank you. Yeah, I got
Thank
the
you.
other 2. All right. So we got some action going there, Janice. Is that okay?
That is, it just brings, you're just addressing student safety. So I think it's a win for everybody. And I think as soon as people see that, if this starts right away, I think it will, I think the research shows that if you build safe bicycle pathways or safe active transportation pathways, they will be used. And as we can see with Victoria Park, it's a case in point. It's beloved, and it's been used by people of all, from 8 to 80. So
And Janice, on that Victoria Park bike lane, it was the bike lane before COVID, and hardly used, or it was used, but now that it's an active transportation pathway, there are walkers, there's mom and dads with baby carriages, there are rollerbladers, skateboarders. So that's Jason's point about get away from the bike lane, look at a shared pathway or an active transportation transportation pathway is the way forward, because give it multiple uses, and then you'll see users get on it.
Yeah.
Well, and the more use it has, the more too, like if it's a specialty lane, like you say, it's a bike lane. Well, that only really, calls to a certain number of people. If it's used by a lot of people and something that's in use, it also means that, for that to be maintained and to be renewed, I think there'll be a stronger call to have that in budgets to say, we want to keep these updated. We want to make sure they're in the best condition they can be, whether, because when you're just looking at a usage scenario, like the mayor said, the more usage we get out of it, the better.
Yeah. And Janice, one other point that Janice made, 880 Cities, just Google it, check it out. It's a great site. We were trying to get them involved with our Environment Sustainability Standing Committee before COVID. It didn't go anywhere, but it's a great platform for ideas on active transportation. Good suggestion, Janice.
Yeah, well, actually, I saw a speaker here at the city. Someone came many years ago, many years ago, to speak on options. So so someone did take the initiative in the past, but it continues to be a leader. And they're based in Toronto now, I think. So there's a real Canadian focus, and they're not afraid of Canadian winters or snow. So thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will take your advice to heart, Mr. Mayor, and I'll go back to my committee, and I'll see if there's interest to maybe look at some of those medium-term goals. And please keep me posted.
Thank you. And thank you for coming here this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye. Okay, well that was excellent, and so you've got all of that motion down, Joanne.
Best I can.
Excellent, good. All right, then we will move to our more regular business. So reports from department liaisons. So very first up is Parks and Recreation, and that is me. So I've been having an ongoing conversation with Nancy at Parks and around the issue of the Confederation Landing situation. So our discussion started over the issue of whether bikes can ride through Confederation Landing, and I I was tasked to ask her as to whether they actually have signs there. They do have signs showing no biking. It's clearly marked. We were wondering about with the cruise ships, with the new AT lane across the bridge, it's quite possible that there would be more bike traffic coming into the city that way, going along Confederation Landing Park. Nancy didn't seem to think that that would be a problem because she seemed to think that that would be a rather indirect route for bikers. It's more likely that they thought that they would go a different way. Her issue largely is that the whole area seems to be pretty congested. And so if you've got bikes going through there, that's going to mix up with people in a bad way. And we asked her if she wanted to work with us to maybe think about how to move bikes through the area. And she said if we want to propose some draft routes and ideas on a map, they could respond to our committee's suggestions. So we could, if we wished, have a look and think about routes through Confederation Parks for bikes. But her larger point is that it's congested, and so whatever you put in for bikes will necessarily be inhabited by people. And if we're talking about active transportation rather than bikes, or we defer to pedestrians over bikes in that sort of area, that's the way she's gone. I think it makes a lot of sense in the end. We're not talking about a large area, and cruise ship passengers and bikes are probably a bad combination. Anyway, that's the extent that I have from parks. So do we have any questions or comments?
Not on that, Richard. Somebody brought it to my attention that in the winter, you can't walk on the boardwalk around the Delta because it's owned by CADC. And I said, well, I wonder if we can't contact CADC and ask them to clear that section of the boardwalk so walkers can continue to walk in that area. Is that a possibility? Does anybody walk that area or know anything about that?
It's a liability issue, Joanne.
Oh.
That's what they come back because
Okay.
it's icy. You know, if you walk around the boardwalk, the Victoria boardwalk,
Yes.
at certain points it gets very slippery, and
Yes.
we've had issues where people have fallen down on the boardwalk. And if you take a walk around the Delta Hotel or the Marriott and head to the mercantile area of Confederation Landing, it's on the water's edge. That's why they close it down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think, Richard, if you use the boardwalk on the south side of the Queen Charlotte Armories, the Naval Reserve.
Yep.
I don't know if that's open either. It's again, it goes back to, it's so close to the water. And then, you know, if you have someone slip, fall into the water, you know, then you have a whole other.
Okay,
I think
so,
that was the
you know,
reason.
lots of times that area is busy in the summer anyway, so we just go up Water Street and walk down Water Street. So I'll just suggest to this person to stick to the sidewalk in the winter for that section. Yeah, and then access it again somewhere else.
And
Okay, thank you for that.
It is, Joanne, it is CADC property. So if you wanted to, if this committee, this advisory task force wanted to address it, we have two representatives on the board, Terry Hennessy and Craig Walker, who represent the city.
Okay.
What
No,
does
I think your answer answers it for me. Yep. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you here. See, we don't have to go anywhere. We got all the answers.
Well, you don't always.
Bring it on.
You always told me don't be showing up all the time, Philip.
Anything else from Parks and Rec? I don't have anything else. Anything anybody wants me to bring up with Parks and Rec?
Not so much Parks and Rec, just well, I know we were talking about that area of town. Mr. Mayor, so is that going to happen this year? The trail down to the Joe Gibbs Park?
That,
You're muted.
Lost you
Philip.
again.
and
Okay.
this year, Jason, what we're doing with the capital budget for public works projects, at every standing committee meeting, Mr. Adams must provide an update on the projects. So the active transportation pathway from the foot of Hillsborough Bridge to Joe Gibbs Park, that's the one I'm watching.
Okay. And have you, and just I know, had gotten asked earlier, do you know if something's going to happen with Towers Road? I know you said some people had put in some things and they got rejected. But I mean, as the city, without having to have people apply for that, you know, I have people all the time asking me, they know I'm on this, and they say, what's going on with that? And I'm like, I have
Right.
no idea. And it just
Right.
gets more dangerous and more dangerous there.
Yeah, yeah. So Zach, I've spoken to Zach Bell, who was the MLA for the area. He's received calls from residents in the Sheradale subdivision, Ash Drive, Mount Everett Road. So he's also working on it. It's if you look at the multi-use pathway, paved pathway 5-year plan, Jason, it's in the 5th year. And like, I've said that at Public Works Committee, that's not acceptable. It has to be moved up to this year. So it's a matter of we have to keep pushing it.
When we wrote our letter in January, I guess, about that, we got quite a bit of pushback from other councillors who said, well, this is just the result of one councillor's particular pet scheme, and should we just listen to every public interest group every time they want some sort of path? I didn't think that was particularly appropriate.
Well, and the
Particularly
other
what?
argument, sorry, Mayor, the other argument one of the counselors wrote back to all of us,
Yeah.
and that counselor stated that just because a certain project has the wherewithal of people that care about it and are advocating for it doesn't make it a valid project, because there's other areas of the city that has to be looked at. And I'm thinking, well, look at all the users out
Yeah.
here and all the concern for it. And it's not just here, it's back and forth that whip in around there. Like the thinking was, you shouldn't be advocating for this. There's other areas that can't speak up for what's needed there. And I mean, it's no different than the Simmons application tonight for active transportation. We've been asking for this for over 2 years for the Towers Road. Sorry, Sharon's got her hand up.
Yeah, I guess my question is, and please forgive me because this is my first year on the committee. I'm trying to get my legs under me. But my observation has been, since I've been on the committee, is that we've talked about this since I've been on the committee, and we're still in the same position. We're no farther ahead. And to me, there has to be some movement at someone's really going to get hurt. And then they're going to go back to this, and this is all recorded, and they're going to say, why was it done this way? So I'm really just looking for, what do we have to do to move it forward in an active way instead of just talking? And I don't want to offend anybody. I apologize if I did.
No, Sharon, I spoke to Mel McDougall. So Mel was the original owner of Mel's out in St. Peter's Road. Him and his wife now are living in Sheradale subdivision. And I believe they're both in their 80s. They don't walk down Towers Road for obvious reasons. And some councillors, or I've heard, that there's not a lot of walking traffic down Towers Road. And I said, well, would you walk down a road where cars are about 3, 6, 9 inches away from you? No. And as you get older, that issue becomes more of a concern. I'm not going near that area. So yes, it's, look, I was with this right from the beginning. The presentation was made at a neighborhood meeting at the Maple Room in the Cody Banks Arena. The drawings are done. It was going down the pathway and then it went off the tracks. So it's been very difficult, Sharon. It's been very difficult to get it back on the tracks, but it's going to get back on the tracks. Now, if it's not this year, it's going to happen because it has to happen for obvious reasons.
I was just going to ask, is as a committee, can we attend a meeting is there more than just sending letter after letter after letter? Is there a way to get in front of someone's face and say, hey, we're here and this is why we believe this?
Yep. There's the Standing Committee for Public Works and Beautification. They have monthly meetings. And I can get back to Joanne or Richard or any of you to say, this is the upcoming meeting. You want to get on the agenda.
Yeah. I don't know. That seems to be a way to move forward, guys, instead of, we seem to be like we're adjacent in this committee. We're not like in front of people yet. And maybe we have to be so people can see a face and there's some advocacy going on.
Yeah,
I was going to add to this. In the fall, we were very clearly, well, we could do nothing then. We couldn't put shale down. We couldn't do this because of the weather, all of this. Well, now we're in April. And I know, I'm sure it's not totally dry. I'm not an expert in the knowledge of those materials and the usage and what the temperature needs to be. But I definitely know that we talked about this and asked about this. And now we're here 6 months later. And it's not there. We're on the bottom of the barrel. I am also wondering the same thing. And not only for 80-year-old people, I wouldn't walk down there because it's so dark. I wouldn't have the sense of safety that I would require
over the
to be a
winter.
person walking there.
Yeah, over the winter, actually, we were driving down that road and it was dark and there's really no lighting down there. And there was the first time it was scary because somebody had dark skin, a dark hoodie, black pants on. And I didn't see that person until I was almost like Mr. Mayor said, it's like 9 inches away. And it gave me a really bad scare. And my wife's like, like that was terrifying. Like, when are they putting this in? Because she knows, I'm doing this. I said, I don't know. We've sent it through and we've made recommendations. And I had not, and I try to be very like observant when I'm on that road. And I had it again here probably about a month ago. Somebody had dark clothing on and couldn't see. So, I mean, if we'd have to get in front of a committee someplace, maybe that's what we have to do.
And I know an 80-year-old woman that walks from our neighborhood over to the spa 8 o'clock every morning year round to go for her swim with her buddies. It's not a safe place, but she's out there. She lives alone.
And we also had the quote from Ramona telling us how much it costs to put pavement down for, I don't know if it was $450,000 for that piece, or we've had all of these things. So I'm wondering what barriers or roadblocks are sitting in place for this not to be where it should be. Also being part of this task force that received the individual letters, which it was a lot to kind of try to keep them read and keep up what was going on. And I felt like it was essentially a lot of emotional labor, unnecessarily.
So Margaret, you're now in the political arena. So that's what happens in the political arena. It's being bounced around. And I can tell you in 2019, when it was first presented at that Maplewood Room meeting, it was at $250,000. That was the estimated cost. So it's ballooned almost 90% over 3 years. And again, as I said, you're in the arena and this is being bounced around. it's going to get done. Look, if it's not this year, it has to get done, because this is, as Sharon said, we can talk until, the crows come home, but it's just, there are similar issues throughout the city on projects that are being forwarded, they're being halted, forwarded, being halted, and that's what's happening to this one. But it's at
Well,
least
that development occurred and there was no AT lens put on it. That's a development in the city that's new. And that is a prime example that there was no AT lens happened. So prior to everyone developing within the city, if they had to go through an AT audit or go through that prior to getting the permits to develop, then perhaps we wouldn't be here. Because with an increase in residencies or home or structures or whatnot, same as Simmons Arena, it's only a matter of time. We build that structure, people are going to come to that structure. It's going to be an increase in people coming because it's going to be bigger and it's going to offer more. Yeah. It's not unlike the East Link Center, if we want to go way back. So I really would hope that we can find some way to, remove the roadblocks or barriers that are happening for all people to be able to feel like we have an AT lane there that's going to support all people. And, the idea that Sharon has, I'm all for it. If that's what it takes, then that's okay.
So let's get on the agenda.
Yes, that's obviously got to be the way forward.
Yeah, we'll go.
so what I'll do, Joanne, I will speak to the chair, and or do you want to send?
Oh, no, you go your way, and then
send them an email.
You go your way, and then you tell me what to do.
Well,
okay.
So if he turns me down, I'll just say, go to Joanne McRae.
There you go. Yeah.
I'll ask.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. I noticed that was business that we needed from the previous minutes. So that's good that we got that covered. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something real quick?
Yes, of course.
So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for being so positive and smiling and happy, because I don't think I've ever seen you not smiling. And what you do is a very difficult job.
It's because Joanne's at the meeting.
I think he heard that I'm leaving after the May meeting.
We're trying to
keep Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Jason, we're trying to keep her here. Okay, Jason, that's it. Keep positive. Stay positive.
Keep the positivity going.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a report from Public Works?
Well, I have one question. Mr. Adams had requested earlier this year that all correspondence was to go directly to him. And I've been sort of tasked with following up on an audit for disability accessibility of the city public buildings. So with your endorsement, I'd like to send Mr. Adams an email and ask him if that audit is ongoing. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Sounds like a very good idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
As far as I am the liaison, this is Sharon, I'm the liaison. And I did receive the email to the committee at 4:30. So no, I thought he was coming, so I didn't think to send him an email about if there's any updates. So short answer, I have no update.
Okay, no, that makes whole piles of sense. We do actually have to reschedule Scott Adams for a third time now.
Well, we're fully booked for May because we have Ramona Doyle and Jess Brown coming from Sustainable. And we also invited the, Jason, how do you want to handle that? The two gentlemen.
For cycling PI, they just said May works for them. So we just give them the date and the link, and they said they'll link in, and it can be as short or as long as we want them to be. So
Okay, well, do you want me to follow up on that as temporary acting secretary? I'll get their emails and get that to Doug and follow up.
sure, I can. I'll send that over to you.
Okay, that'd be
Yep.
great. Okay,
Joanne?
so Richard, can we put that off till June for
Yep,
Scott Adams?
yep.
Because we have the questions. I mean, we know what we want to find out.
So Joanne,
Unless, yeah.
Can we ask for a recording of the answers or something?
could I just ask Joanne? So when you submit your minutes, these go to Doug DeMay, he formats the meeting, the minutes, and any action statements are forwarded to the appropriate departments. Is that correct?
I don't know. I do the minutes and I thought he just ran them off and gave them to you
Okay.
as mayor and councilor. I don't know.
So it's been 3 times you've invited him and he has not attended?
Twice.
Twice. So if Muhammad can't go to the mountain will have to come to Muhammad. So that's why I'm saying to get on the committee meeting for the standing committee meeting for public works and urban beautification. That will be the focus I will take.
You
in
took
getting
the
you up.
words right out of my mouth.
Right, that's the focus. And then I will also add that, okay, there is the issue of the Towers Road matter that we have to discuss too. So.
Yeah, and we took the time to compose 8 questions that we have for Public Works. And last year, Scott Adams wanted questions from us, or 2 years ago, and we did them all up, and then he answered them all, and then he brought them to the meeting for more discussion. He did a beautiful presentation. I don't know if it's timing too, like, like a sewer could have broken tonight. I don't know what goes on. But yep, sure. So the questions, everybody, you want to just leave that until he comes in June?
I don't think we've had any of our questions answered, so we might as well.
Well, if we're going to go to a standing committee meeting for Public Works, I think that we can ask the questions if we're on the agenda, is what I'm thinking. Why are we waiting till June if we can go to May's meeting and ask the questions?
Would Mr. Adams be at the Public Works?
He's the manager for the department. He has to be at the meeting.
Okay.
So Sharon, if you can't get all the 8 questions asked or at least brought to the floor, brought to the table, that can follow up at the June meeting.
Well,
Oh yeah, okay, we'll invite him for a follow-up.
Yeah.
And we'll go to somebody will go to the standing committee on Public Works whenever that is. Like most of you guys work, so it's not
one of those questions will be the update, progress, when are we going to get it done, construction of an active transportation pathway on Towers Road.
Yeah.
Well, I don't work right now, so I can go for sure. Maybe 2 people would be great so that we're bouncing off each other. Margaret, you said you would come? Is that your hand?
Yeah, just let me know.
Okay. There you go. You have
Excellent.
volunteers.
Excellent.
Joe, you're not going?
Oh, I don't know when it is.
We
I'll
should
go
all go.
watch.
Scared? You
I'll
scared?
go watch. No, gee, I'm not scared of anything. I'll go watch and take minutes. That keeps my mouth shut, guys.
Do we have a police report?
There's nothing like a job, Joanne. There's nothing like a job.
Yeah, I know. It's your turn, Margaret. You're police.
I have no report from the police department. Does anyone have anything they want me to address with them?
No.
No.
Sustainability committee.
Okay, that's me. All right, I've done a little bit of homework. So, Jessica Brown, who's also sustainability officer with Ramona Doyle, reported that she's met with bike-friendly communities to discuss cycling in Charlottetown and ideas for Bike Week. Last year, BFC, aka Mitch Underhay, and some others offered tours for people like to go on bike routes through the city or that didn't feel comfortable. So I don't know if that's what Jessica's talking to them about or some ideas. And the mayor did a mayor's ride on a really cold Friday with Mitch
Cold and wet.
I forgot that part. So people were invited that they could go with them. And anyway, those are some of the ideas. So Jessica said that nothing is solidified yet. I do have her email, and I'll just dig it up here for you because I may want more output. Just a second here now. April the 5th. Okay. Jessica Brown. Yep. And she said, I expect that Bike Week schedule and messaging this year will be very similar to the last couple of years with no major new initiatives planned. I can certainly provide further updates directly to you to pass on to the AT Task Force prior to May meeting. And if there's any comments or suggestions in advance, you can pass them along and I'll take them into consideration. So if you've got any ideas that you want to go, you can contact Jessica Brown directly or you can contact me and I'll forward those on to her. Like I said, Jessica and Ramona are coming May the 17th or 19th, whatever our May meeting is, and they'll present everything for us. Bike Week is in June. I don't know the date. The other thing is regards to, and this was a really good one. I don't know if it was you, Richard, that had suggested that both the Charlottetown Cycling Handbook and Bike Path pamphlet be made available to the cruise ship people. So Jessica wrote back to that email and said, in previous years, we've delivered printed resources such as the cycling map to some of the visitor information locations around Charlottetown. And we always keep a supply at City Hall visitor information area stocked with these materials. In the past couple of years, there's not been many cruise ships in Charlottetown, but since cruise ship travel is expected to return to the Port of Charlottetown, especially in September, we'll keep that in mind as a good location to stock these materials. And I looked on the city's website. I kind of just Googled bike paths or walking paths, and that it's termed, there's a Charlottetown Cycling Handbook available online, and there's a bike map pamphlet. Now, I've noticed from the Bike Friendly Communities website that they have all the, I think it's the Charlottetown Cycling Handbook. Anyway, they have all the safety tips and things for cycling on their website. You just have to click on it, and as well as the city of Charlottetown. So you know, the information's there. It's not in your face, but it is there. And hopefully, and I know they will, with Bike Week, all this will be promoted. That's my report.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, well, cycling PEI then. I think that's you, Jason. Do you have anything to add beyond what you said earlier?
No, that's it.
Excellent. And Carrie's not here to give us a report on bike-friendly communities.
Oh, but I went to the annual meeting. Can I just talk for a couple minutes?
Yes, of course.
I was only fortunate enough to go to the first hour because it was on a Sunday morning. Carrie Shea was the president and she chaired the meeting. She did a beautiful job. And Bike Friendly Communities Limited, they're registered as a cooperative and they're incorporated. I found out all kinds of little interesting details. So their whole thing is they're advocating, as we know, for safe and separated cycling infrastructure. They are also, when I say they, I'm talking about BFC, are an affiliate member of Velo Canada now. Velo Canada are the ones that did the bike surveys last year. Some of us counted bikes for them, and that's happening again in June this year. If you want to participate, you can just go. There's nothing out yet on BFC's website, but there is on the Velo Canada one. BFC has partnered a bit with the Immigrant and Refugee Services Association of PEI, and they've taken some of the newcomers out on bike routes and on bicycles and given them safety tips and guidance, and I think that's a wonderful association. The other thing I didn't know, and this was a new initiative of BFC, is that they've partnered with Parkinson Canada under their project or initiative called Cycling Without Age. So Parkinson Canada and Andrews of Stratford, along with BFC, their new initiative is they've purchased, it looks like a rickshaw, but the bicycle is on the back of the rickshaw, and they've made plans with Andrews of Stratford to take seniors around on this. And I just think that's so neat and wonderful. And you know, Mayor, not to put a dig in there, but I'm pretty impressed with the connectiveness of the active transportation, new paved and improved routes going up around Stratford, particularly down on the waterfront. It's beautiful there between T Hill Park all the way back to the Kinloch Road along T Hill. It's absolutely beautiful. Okay, so BFC Outreach and Advocacy Campaign. Mitch Underhay is the project lead. Rachel MacArthur is the outreach officer, and Rianne Beatty is the communications officer. The videographer is Isaac Williams, and the Honorable Michelle Beaton, MLA, attended the meeting as well. Everything was online. It was all virtual. So, I mean, there was like 20 of us or more on the screen. It's pretty cool. And like I said, they're big on safety, universally safe infrastructure for cycling. And that's all I attended. So that's all you have to listen to. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business from department liaisons that I've missed?
Richard,
Yes.
just to follow up on what Joanne said in Stratford, it's similar to what's happening in Cornwall. And that's why hopefully we can look at more shared services amongst the three municipalities. I'm a strong believer of shared services and stronger communities, but you know, this interconnectivity just in our own boundaries can go beyond on the east and the west side by more cooperation. So down the road, it'd be great to have a capital area active transportation task force, and that would look at the three municipalities and how to connect them. You've seen the active transportation pathway from Cornwall Town Hall. Now it's right into Riverside Drive, Capitol Drive, and there are plans to take that beyond up to Spencer Drive to connect to the Confederation Trail. So, you know, and then take a look at the bridge, the pathway active transport. So it's a great way to connect all three municipalities. So hopefully down the road, we will have a capital area, capital region task force on active transportation. Thank you.
It's good to have objectives and goals.
Yeah. No, it makes so much sense. I mean, politics works in terms of boundaries, but people don't pay attention to those boundaries in their daily life. I mean, you've got to get from one zone to another. Okay, so at 7:30, we're up to new business. I don't know where any of this comes from or who's speaking to any of it, but item 8A is pedestrian safety. I don't know where that item came from.
That item came from your recommendation. I should have been more specific. You had sent us the radio clip from CBC's The Current posted.
Oh,
okay,
that's right. Yes.
yeah. So a couple of comments on that. That same, and Carrie probably had something to do with this. That same radio clip is posted on the BFC website for anyone that wants to listen to it. I sent it to Ramona and Jessica at the city because, you know, we all help each other. And I added a word that I really felt that the traffic calming measures that the city had installed on Great George Street there by the corner of Fitzroy and Great George, where the technology center is. Like that was one strongly that similar to what this article had recommended. And another one was the Longworth Avenue intersection with Confederation Trail, the traffic calming
Yes.
measures. And so the road safety, some of those recommendations, Richard. Anyway, yeah, it was a fascinating story. If you want to talk to it a little bit more.
I can't because I can't really remember the piece. It was a month ago.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
But it was basically the lady had been hit by a car in Toronto and she's on her way back. And she's become a strong advocate for safe pedestrian walkways and visible clothing, all these things that will make it safe for people.
Yes, I don't think there's anything for us to act on beyond the fact that it was just a useful story, as I recall, with some good sort of general tips, things that we are thinking about, but the story brought them together quite well.
Agreed.
Sorry, I wasn't better prepared for that.
No, I should have given you more information there.
The next one was also, I think, me prodding city bylaw for electric bicycles, and maybe defer a bit to the mayor on this. Now, so there's a problem in distinguishing between an electric bike and a moped or a motorcycle, right? And this is, I think our thinking was that at some point the line between the two was going to get really, really blurry, particularly with some of these electric bikes are really heavy already. And so if they're going to hit people, they're going to do serious damage. And has the city been thinking about, I know the province has been thinking about this, but out on the highway is something different to going down University Avenue or going down Nassau Street or something. Has the city been thinking about what to do about electric bikes?
Yeah, Richard, I think the city, through the Standing Committee for Police and Emergency Services, will adopt the provincial standard. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a pedal regenerating type of bike? Yeah. And is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So the city is purchasing 4 of these electric bikes, pedal generating or regenerating systems. So yeah, we are definitely following the provincial lead, because just for that, just when you look at the size of those heavier electric bikes, they could do a lot of damage if they hit someone at 30 kilometers an hour, or hit a small child, or hit a senior. So yeah, we are, and I believe that's a police matter. And I'll tell you what else that come up too, Richard. If we do really want to promote a more lessening our carbon footprint, we're looking at electric buses for our T3. Why can't we encourage our taxi operators to look at electric vehicles also? And is there something through provincial and federal funding that would provide funding to assist taxi drivers, or providing those charger stations so they would be at near locations for taxi stands? So yeah, I think the whole concept, or the whole worldview of electrification is becoming more, I think, acceptable, easier to grasp than it was a year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. It's the way of the future.
Oh yes, I think that's right. So your sense is that in terms of bylaws, we'll probably just follow the
Provincial.
province's
Yeah.
lead?
Yeah. And I picked that up from Chief Brad McConnell. I think he already knew about it because he was concerned, just as you were, these heavier all-electric bikes should be on the highway and licensed and have all the requirements. But I don't know, have any of you been into Toronto lately? Like last fall, I was in Toronto. They rent electric bikes in the downtown.
Yeah.
They wear no helmets and they're speeding down Yonge Street. And I'm saying, wow, and all that traffic, I said, geez, I hope this is not what Charlottetown's going to look like in 3 to 5 years. We have to look at putting the bylaws in place. And I think this is the first good step, is that anything that's on an active transportation pathway has to be pedal regenerated.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. The problem with all this stuff is, you can put all the laws in you want, but if there's no enforcement, people don't care.
Yeah.
Like I
It's-
see stuff all the time. I see people going without bicycle helmets up a one-way street, and honestly, I've seen them go by cop cars like that, and the cops don't do anything. So I would like to see the city have a component of enforcement for some of these bylaws for speeding, like cars too, right? Like the avenue is just scary. I've been on there on a bike before, but it's crazy. So if there's some kind of enforcement bylaw, like, do you know if there's any funding that they can put in for an enforcement bylaw officer that can?
Jason, it's not that. This has been brought up by councillors and council as a whole. Why are we not enforcing the bicycle helmet bylaw, and for that matter, provincial law? And it's just, we don't have the resources, or, we have, higher rankings for other issues that we have to deal with in the community. It's been asked, and
Not so much bicycle helmets in particular, but I mean a bylaw enforcement officer that's hired full time that monitors some of the hot spots for speeding, that does bicycle helmets, that does other types of things. Because I'm sure there could be enough come out of tickets, some of those hot spots to pay for a good portion of that.
They do have a full-time bylaw officer, the city of Charlottetown. And from what I can gather in different components, and I know other people here, I suspect a lot of the time it's dealing with garbage situations, with so much development and apartment buildings and whatnot. There's a lot of that type of stuff going on. And I know that just from people who have apartments and so on. But they do have one position, if I understand that correctly. So until there's more funding made to increase the FTEs, and there was some increase this year, I don't believe there was anybody for a bylaw officer, another person.
And to add to that, take for example planning, Jason, planning and development. We don't have a summary offense ticketing enforcement process for that department. We're working towards it now because of the short-term rental issue, but I know that it would expand into other departments, i.e. police, fire, and so forth. But to get that changed, it requires change in a provincial acts. So that means that requires going through the Legislative Assembly, which is a process in itself. So there is talk about it, but it takes time. And I know I've been asking for 2 years to get this summary offense ticketing just for the planning and development processes or issues that we face daily. Thank you.
Thank you.
The bike safety issue is one of the things that I'm really concerned about, because both cars and bikes need to do a reset and learn to respect each other. And that includes cyclists learning how to signal and be predictable to cars. I think this is something bike-friendly communities will be working on, but if cars know what bikes are going to do because people are signaling, then cars will behave. I mean, it's a two-way thing, right?
Yeah.
But then there needs to be a reset.
But Richard, we need more harmonization amongst walkers, bikers, and drivers. That's what we need. Like I've watched walkers going across
yeah.
crosswalks and not even going back to that grade 1 when you're told by your teacher, look both ways
Absolutely.
when you cross the road. Like
Here's another one. How many pedestrians go on a crosswalk and their heads are down and they're texting? Like, there should almost be a law against that, don't you think? That you're not allowed to text when you're walking across the street?
good luck
Yeah,
with that, Joe.
I guess.
Okay, final issue on the new business is the Dutch reach to avoid dooring.
Margaret, you want to just tell us what was in that one? I thought that was good too.
This is an article, I believe it's a best practice. I think it's in the Netherlands, is that when you go to open your door, you never use the hand, that you're driving with. You always use the opposite hand, so that forces you to look in the mirror. And I think it's called dooring, isn't it? Is that what it was called? Yeah.
It's dooring when you open your door and you wipe out a cyclist.
Yeah, so you use the opposite hand. So if I'm driving my car and my door's, I'm driving and I'm there at the left hand, I never open the door with my left hand. I always open it with the right hand, which forces you to look, and it takes you a little bit more time. So it was an article. I don't know if I found it from the mayor of Bike Halifax, or if it was in Ottawa. But it's an adopted practice there, and everybody does it. Everybody knows about it. So every time you think about getting out of your car, if you don't use that hand, you reach across and use the opposite arm, you're forced to, it puts your brain into looking into the mirrors and things like that.
Do you know what? I'm going to send that to Jess Brown and ask her if that can be part of her Bike Week promotion.
Good idea.
Yeah.
The thing is to get the word out there.
Yeah.
It
was very interesting. And I did think about it one time, having an experience where I almost doored someone. And I thought, it's interesting if you stop and I was so afraid, that you almost hurt someone. But if you stop and you use the opposite, it takes you a bit of time and you're more apt to check in the mirrors. I think there's brain science according to it too. Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that driving instructors should be told about, and then they can just sort of pass it on to their clients as they take their tests, or before they take their tests. It just becomes habit. I mean, don't fail them if they don't do it, but but it's just a good practice, like hands on the wheel.
Yes, I was wondering where you were going with that, Margaret, because when I went to Côte d'Ivoire to work with Canadian Crossroads International, I learned very quickly, you never shake someone's hand with your left hand, because that's for toiletry purposes. Your right hand is what you always shake your hand with.
I just learned something.
Well, not quite the same as what Margaret was saying.
I'm not sure. I don't think it's quite the same thing. And I'm really not sure if that's true at all. I don't even know what to say to respond to that.
Well, I learned very quickly, always shake with your right hand.
That was a complete left turn there. Left turn.
Okay, does anybody have any other business that they would like to bring up before we adjourn? I see no other business. So in which case I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Well, thank you, everybody. That was a very good meeting. A lot done, a lot talked about. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
Mr.
Richard.
Mayor, next time I see you, I'm going to give you a fist bump.
How about elbows, gentlemen and ladies? Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Like,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.